Here we go.
Hey Facebook, welcome to the Money School with the Hollands.
Hey, happy Monday, Facebook.
Today I have my husband of how many years now?
You don't know, or you tested me?
I'm testing you. I know how many years. I've been married.
25 wonderful years.
25.
Yep.
That'll be 26 this year.
Yep.
Cool. We can count. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and I really appreciate you taking the time. Time is something that I never take for granted because I do realize, one, you can never get it back. It's one of your most valuable investments, and I appreciate you investing the time to be with us today. So share this. This would be one that you would probably want to share and have conversations about, or do a watch party on. And I thought about it actually last week because I had lots and lots of conversations around this subject last week, not only with potential clients. I had this conversation with other coaches in the industry. I saw some posts on social media dealing with this subject, but the title of this particular money school is Riddle Me This. If you remember the Riddler.
Hang on for the ride, y'all.
Hang on for the ride. This may be a little longer than 30 minutes, but most of the people that show up every week, I'm sure you do not mind us taking our time, because we do we do bring a lot of value every week.
Under promise, over deliver.
Under promise, over deliver. And so the name of this is Riddle Me This. And I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers, but true to who I am, I bring it like it is.
Always.
And
I think that's what your fans and followers love about you.
That's what my followers, and I don't like the word fans. I'm not a superstar. I don't deem myself as one. I don't like the term fans, but I get what you're saying. People in our community.
There you go.
That we have really been blessed with to do this journey together.
Yes.
It's what they have come or grown to expect from us, because we do tend to give a lot of value. And so when I talk about Riddle Me This, the real conversation tonight will be around, why is it so hard for Black people, African Americans, or Africans in America, whatever you want to call it. Please do not send me DMs about my Afrocentric terminology that I'm using. But
those of us who have melanin.
Yes, those of us who have melanin. That's a good one. Why is it so hard for us to invest in ourselves? And so, the key to changing your life really is changing your mind. And we talk a lot about mindset transformation inside of our communities. In fact, I am launching a new program, because as I expand and grow and shift and change, I want to be a change agent for others. And so I am currently developing a program that's called Rich Minds, based off of our wonderful life-changing experience that we had in Guatemala. And so, again, the key to changing your life really is changing your mind. And so, a new location without a new mindset produces the same old results. Like, it doesn't bring change. And so I don't always believe that it's about money or cost only as to why people are afraid to invest in themselves, because I've come across people who could afford it, who absolutely 100% need it, very, very desperately in their lives and in their businesses, and still don't do it. And so the root cause of this really is the spirit of bondage. And when I was studying and spending time in prayer over this issue, that is what the Lord shared with me. And he began to show me things about bondage and how people don't really understand the after effects. I talk a lot about it in my book, Born to Multiply, but the epigenetics, or the history of the residue that's left over from slavery. And, one of the, buddies that hangs out with the spirit of bondage would be fear, which are phobias and torments and anxiety and stress and untrusting and doubt. are associated with it. And so with
previous hurt, right? Previous damage can bring fear.
A previous damage can bring fear. And so with bondage, the buddies that hang out with bondage is fears, addictions, addiction to food, addictions to drug, addiction to pornography, addiction to whatever people get addicted to, sugar,
caffeine,
drugs or alcohol or whatever. And then there is this issue that shouldn't even be an issue in the body of Christ. It shouldn't be an issue with anybody. And that is just the spirit of jealousy. And, that is a really, really big one because it divides, so whether it's spite or strife or envy, it all causes division when you think someone else is at a place where you think you should be. And so that just means you're out of alignment of who you really were created to be. I believe we were all created to be spectacular in our own right. And so these things bring you out of the spirit of bondage, brings you out of alignment. And so that's one of the reasons why people really don't invest in themselves is because of bondage. Another reason is because they truly don't believe. They don't believe either it's possible or they don't believe that they're deserving of it. I can't tell you how many times when I send out a survey as part of our funnel, people that will respond to they don't feel like they're worthy of wealth. And so worth is a really big issue in our community. But one of my favorite billionaire investors to follow, his name is Ray Dalio. And one of the things that I was reading one of his tweets where he's actually tweeting to graduates that are graduating. And so he's tweeting like 10, the top 10 things I wish I could tell, my younger self what graduates need to know. And one of the things that he said is, Sean said, I didn't see it. She said it, but it's not showing up here. I wish I could see it. But anyway, one of the things that Ray Dalio says is, to the graduates I was reading today, how you're about to enter into the beginning of the second phase of your life, which is very different from the first phase. And so if you've ever attended Wealthy Revolution Live, Rob teaches about the 4 phases of your life and where you should be based off of the quarters, right? The 4 quarters of a person's life. And so, when he was talking to graduates, he was like, look, this next half of your life is going to look very different than the first half. And so realize that you know virtually nothing about it. And, he said that you don't know what it's like. So you need to learn what it's like and how to be great at it. And I'm always amazed at people who want to start a business, who feel like God has given them a gift or a talent or an ability to use, and they get connected. God allows somebody to come across their path who's already reached the level that they attain or they desire to be at, and yet they don't engage. I can honestly tell you, for us, any level that I have absolutely ever wanted to go on, I am quick to go get a coach for it. And let me tell you why. I said it earlier that I don't believe that it's always about cost. Sometimes it is, but it's not always. I remember years and years and years ago, I know you're going to remember too, where we first met John in Las Vegas. And John was a real estate master, right?
One of our first mentors.
Yeah. He had become a multimillionaire by the age of 26
in
real estate. He was very young inside of real estate. His consultant fees were $80,000. We're afraid to invest $3,500, but his consulting fee was $80,000. Now, mind you, we were just starting out. Like, this was when I was wearing the ponytail. You put extra emphasis on the O. That's what we were. And so we had no clue of how, we just knew, we felt like we were called for him to really coach us. We knew we were in the right place. We knew we were in the right place when we met him. And then confirmation, he called us out. Right. And so I was just like, you know what, God, I'm going to go forward. I'm not going to allow fear, because fear will bring in the feeling of inferior, you feeling inferior. Like, I don't belong here. I don't but listen, as far as I could see, I felt like a king was pointing his scepter towards us.
Right. Right. And the moral of that is, don't allow your fear to get in the way when God opens the door.
Don't allow a fear to get in the way. We knew his consulting fee was $80,000, and we were bold enough to show up with no money.
Dion just said broke.
We were bold enough to show up with no money. So long story short, he took us under his wing for about 18 months. And I knew it was a divine assignment. And we did not pay him $80,000.
We didn't have $80,000.
We didn't have $80,000 to get him. Matter of fact, what we gave him was $79,000 short of $80,000.
We can laugh now.
We can laugh now. We were very scared to even tell him that.
But look at the favor in that, right? For God to put us in a place. And this man was not even born again.
He wasn't born again.
This man was not
born again.
Yeah.
And
but look at the favor of God. Then.
Yep, that was awesome.
Yep.
And so if you want to increase or have prosperity in every area of your life, then make choices that support that area of prosperity. And so if you want a prosperous marriage, make choices to have a prosperous marriage. Our friends, Sean and Edwin Strickland, is actually getting ready to have an amazing marriage course. They did it last Friday, and it starts in June again. Somebody put in the thread, I think Sean is on here, put in the thread the name of that marriage enrichment.
Yeah, just put the URL. Somebody knows. If not, you'll go back and do it afterwards.
But if you want a transformed marriage, you have to invest in a transformed marriage. And so if you want, just whatever areas, I don't care if it's prospering financially, invest in a wealth coach. If it's prospering, for parenting, invest in your parenting skills, And
let me just say something, because it sort of ties in. You mentioned Sean and Edwin, and they are friends of ours. Right. And although we wanted to attend this last one in May, we didn't. But our plan is to attend this one in June. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we may even be married. I'm not sure exactly how long they've been married.
Probably, I think
it's around the same amount of time as us. And we feel like we have a great marriage, but yet we're still putting ourselves in position to hear from them.
Right. Most definitely. And listen, and we didn't have, like, our beginning years stories are completely different. They don't run parallel, but they're excellent.
And they have so much to share.
They have so much to share. They actually give you the tools. And so I know this is not a marriage thing, but
the point I'm trying to make is you have to put yourself in position to receive from people. Don't look at the individual. Look at the gift that the individual has to offer you.
Most definitely.
Yep.
And so if you want to prosper on your job, then you invest in how to bring my job more value. If you want to prosper in your thinking, invest in mindset transformation courses. And so going it alone takes longer. I know for a fact we wouldn't be where we are today had we not started investing in ourselves, invested in our dreams, and invested in our transformation. And so you can and should read books. You can listen to podcasts all day long and attend free workshops, but that only takes you so far in the journey. Never stop. But we're going to talk about that later on. But it only takes you so far. But there is one investment that supersedes all others, and that really is investing in yourself. And so I don't know why people think that is so hard to do. They are quick to mimic. I already know, pay yourself first, pay yourself first. They don't even know what the heck that means. Pay yourself first. Pay yourself first is you investing in yourself. It's investing in your future. It's putting money aside so you can be a great you in your future and live a great life. We can mimic it. We're great at being parakeets, but we're just like piss poor execute. Well, why do you speak like that? It's a truth. Piss poor executioners. Is that a word?
Sure.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And so, Warren Buffett says this. And, one of the things I often listen to a lot of wisdom. And he says that the very best investment that you can make is the one that you can't beat. Ooh. It's the one that you can't be taxed on. It's the one that not even inflation can take it away from you, and nobody can take that away from you. And that is when you invest in yourselves. I remember years ago when I went to college in North Carolina, I remember waking up one Saturday morning. I went to Bennett College, and Bennett is not far from A&T University, and North Carolina A&T, and there's a railroad track that separates the two colleges. I'll never forget waking up one Saturday morning and seeing the KKK march. And so growing up, I didn't really experience a lot of racism. I was born in the 70s, but it was because my grandparents sheltered me from it also. And I remember being so shocked the first time I saw the KKK march, and just how they treated me differently in the South. They would do stupid stuff like put your money on the counter and not place it in your hand. I started noticing when my friends and I would go to the malls, we were being followed inside of, Belk or Dillard's, where they wasn't following, whites around. And so I started seeing the differences. So I remember coming home and asking my grandfather, how come he didn't teach me or prepare me how to deal with racism? And he said something to me that is so vitally important. If you follow me, I often quote my grandfather's lessons to me, but he said, because I felt like, he used to call me Sweet Pea. And he says, Sweet Pea, I felt like if I can teach you how to get something up here, knowledge is something that no one can ever take away from you. They can't tax you on it. Inflation doesn't touch it. It's something that no one can ever, what you know. Like when you know something, you're confident in it. And so I feel like that with investing in who I want to be in my future, it is something that nobody can ever take away from me. And to be honest, it far outweighs costs for me.
Yes.
And so I think there is power, or I know that there is power in investing in yourself. And so one of the reasons slave masters didn't allow slaves to learn how to read, because they understood that applied knowledge is power. And so the mindset of you not investing in yourself and wanting everything for free really is a slave mentality. It's a poverty mentality and a trick of the enemy. It's a trick that he uses to keep you beneath. But yet we quote scriptures, I'm above only and I'm never beneath, but your mind is beneath. The way you think is beneath. And so the Bible says that in all you're getting, get understanding. And all you're getting, get applied knowledge. And so everyone has the potential, that they haven't used yet. And so most don't even know that it's there, and coaching brings that out in you. And so, again, people are fearful of the cost of programs, but your outlook is just wrong.
Yeah, and it goes back, I know you don't want to have this conversation now, but I think a lot of times it goes back to cost versus value, right? Yeah. And sticker shock is the thing that scares most people away, because they see an amount and it may be more than they have. It may even be what they have available. But if it's not comfortable for them because this is new, then there's a fear that begins to set in, and they see more of money leaving them versus the words you used earlier, potential coming back to them, or applied knowledge coming back to them that can double, triple, quadruple what that initial investment is.
Okay, and so you and I are different in many ways. We have a lot of our mindset may not be, but how we are built, how we are wired are different. I am way more of a risk taker than what Robert is. Yeah. And so when you heard that John's consulting fees was $80,000, how did you remember feeling?
I probably cussed inside. I'm sure I did. I was probably like, get me out of the room. Get me out of this room. Because if it's $80,000 consulting fee, it's probably going to be $10,000 to stand in here and have a conversation with them. Yeah. But that's where my mindset was at the time. And you touched on it too. Some of it may tie back to slavery, or even this mindset of me not feeling worthy, right, to even be in that space, not realizing that God had opened the door for us to even put us there. So it wasn't whether, it had nothing to do with what I had done.
That's in my notes.
Okay, no, I didn't read your notes.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with what we had done, but what God had already preordained for us.
What he had preordained, but we get fearful of a dollar, you know, and so you can never put a price on your investment in self-development. You know, in return, I've become more intelligent. I've become more aware of opportunities that we have been able to make money off of. I've become a better person, a better owner, a better mentor, a better mother, a better wife because of those investments. And oftentimes, I don't think that people understand how important their success is to God. And so no matter whether it's financial success or just success in life, it's important. If you change your perspective, you will understand that there is someone else's life that depends on you. It's really funny. It's really funny. I didn't even talk to Sean before this live. I didn't even talk to you. You never saw my notes. But it's funny. That was in my notes. And Sean said something. I had started working with Sean. This was years ago. And I wasn't coaching back then. I had zero financial programs whatsoever. I had nothing. Rob and I had just been doing business, and I made money. I made lots of money. And so she called me one day. I had told her a couple of things to do, and she started making money. And she called me one day, and she was like, why won't you do this? Like, I wasn't speaking on stages the way that I am now. And I was like, to be honest, I just don't want to deal with people. And that's maybe a nice version of what I said back to her. But she said something that always stuck with me, that stopped me in my tracks. She said, LaShawn, she says, there are people, when God places a dream in someone's heart, there are people that can't do what they were called to do in the earth until they come across your path and you're sitting on those gifts. Like, and to be honest, I was like, well, I'm helping you. Leave me up, like, shut up and leave me alone about it. Like, I honestly had no desire to do what we're doing until I met a coach. And so people are fearful where I picked up. Left off, people are fearful, but you can never put a price tag on self-development. And so, you know, oftentimes we think that, success is only for other people and not for us. But again, you know, until you start changing your perspective and how you look at it, that, you know, if you change your perspective, you'll accept the fact that there are people that are waiting. Their destiny depends on you investing in yourself because their destiny is tied to yours and crossing your path. I can't tell you how many times we've crossed people's path that were able to impart. We invested, they imparted something, the very thing we needed at the moment we needed it. You know, and so how it became it's very important is how we live our lives.
So understand prosperity or success and whatever it is you call to do is just a byproduct of you walking it out.
Absolutely.
Right? But what you touched on, I think, is so vitally important. It's important that we get free of ourselves and realize that the gift that's been placed on the inside of us really and truly is not for us.
It's not for us.
Right? And if we realize it's not for us, but it's for those who are standing in line that are waiting for us to step into that gift, then I think we may pursue it with more urgency, right? That gift is not for you. That gift that we have is not for us. It's for us to share with the rest of the world. I can remember 2 years ago at Wealthy Revolution Live. Might have been beginning of the second day. And it was me, you, and Adam. Jonathan hadn't arrived yet and Zoe wasn't there. We were in the room praying before the event. And literally we were upstairs in the hotel room, but the Lord took me down to the room that we were having the event in. And as the three of us were standing in the hotel room praying, and he began to show me all the people that were lined up behind the people that were in the room, that were supposed to be in the room. And as we were praying, I just began to weep. And what happens is when you see that, when you get a hold of that, it begins to drive you in a different way because you realize it has nothing to do with you. The gift that God put in us is for us to share with the rest of the world.
For us to share with the world. And who knows, you could be the Esther of your family and help save people in uncertain times. I got a call from my sister last week that I would have never thought would have called me. And she was like, I'm ready. This is my blood sister. We have the same dad. She was like, I'm ready to invest in your program. I don't want to work. You know, she was like, I'm making so much money for my company. I could be doing this for myself and my family. And, you know, I was speechless. I was shocked. Because normally they don't pay me any attention, but you know, too often,
who's listening.
Too often, I think that we accept failure because we don't understand how important it is to God for us to succeed, and so it's essentially. It's essential that you really get a hold of how important it is for you to succeed in your gifts and your talents and your abilities to God, because He gave them to you as a gift.
And understand this. Wow, this is good. So understand that when you, and please don't take this harsh. I don't want to be harsh, but I want to create a sense of urgency, right? When we fail to step into that call, we take it as just failing ourselves, right? Like I'm a failure, or I'm holding myself back. But I want to create more of a sense of urgency. You're not just failing yourself. You're failing all of those who are standing in line waiting for you to get in position.
Right. And your kids are watching.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I love my kids have great work ethic.
Yep.
And they understand the preparation period. They understand investing in themselves. They don't take.
I think they've learned that though, because that's what we've shown.
Exactly. And so when you're called, understand. I was actually reading this earlier. I wanted to start studying the life of Joshua, and you know, when you're called, there is a preparation season. And so when you look at Joshua in the Bible, after Joshua received God's call on his life, because he can call you and you not receive it. But the Bible says that after Joshua received the call on his life, the Lord began to prepare him to take Moses' place. So that showed me that, you know, hey, there is a calling, there are gifts, there are talents, there are abilities that God has given us, but there's still a preparation season that we have to go through. And that's where we as believers, it's almost like God is Magic Mike to us. You know, not the stripper Magic Mike.
I'm like, okay, where you going with this? I want to see you tie all this in together. Right?
Not the stripper Magic Mike, but like he's going to do magic,
wave a magic wand,
and it's going to happen. But we see here in the Bible that even after he called Joshua, there was a preparation period. Yes. He was like, hey, you know, the Lord began to prepare him to take Moses' place. And so in order for you to fulfill a promise, we all want to quote the scriptures on prosperity, right? He blesses me more and more, me and my children. Wealth and riches are in my house. Above all, I want us to prosper.
You know them all, don't
health, even as a soul. I mean, I could go on and on. There are over 380 scriptures in the Bible that deals with wealth, money, prosperity. And so in order for you to fulfill a promise, you have to invest in the preparation. Yeah. It's no getting around it. And so I think this is where so many believers or so many people miss the mark of all the prosperity promises in the Bible. They all need an investment in preparation. You look at Noah. You look at Joseph. Joseph had storehouses in order for him to receive the grain. So he had to prepare for the storehouses. He had to put money aside so when the season happened and the market dropped, he could go in. Joseph bought low and sold high. You know, and so Noah had the ark to preserve him through a global shift. You need a net. You need a sickle to prosper financially. Yeah. And so people think just starting a business. I'm not talking selling something for like $6 or $7. Look, it's going to take you from now to Jesus' return.
You have to move a lot of units to it.
Right. And then you get mad because most believers, the only units they have is the people in the church. And then they get pissed at the people in the church because the people in the church. Okay, they get upset because the people in the church ain't buying their stuff. And And so, you
gotta learn to fish in a different pond.
You gotta learn to fish in a different ocean.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think this is where a lot of us miss the mark. And so you need strength. If you read the story of Joseph Joshua, when he's talking to him, he was like, be strong in the Lord and be of good courage. So we know we need strength. We know we need courage, you know, and you need to prepare. And so you know, have you ever considered, you said this earlier, that's why I was like, look, he is all in my notes. You know, have you ever considered that someone's eternal destiny is tied to your own personal success?
That should be a perspective shifter right there. Just knowing that it's not about you.
Yes. And so when I was reading about Joshua, you know, over the weekend, some of the things that stood out to me, which was right on time because I was having a lot of this conversation last week. But two, you got to accept the help you need to succeed.
Ooh. Let's talk about that.
You gotta accept the help you need to succeed. And so I saw what God told Joshua to observe, to do according to the law which my servant Moses commands you. He gave Joshua a coach.
Observe to do.
He says, listen, Joshua had purpose. Joshua was called to do something great. God told him that he needed preparation. So he told him to go follow Moses and do what Moses does.
Okay, so you said it. So now I'm going to ask you the question. You said follow Moses. So is my preparation just going on Facebook and following you?
No.
So then tell me what my preparation is. Right? I want to get to the meat of this.
I get this a lot because we talk about it a lot. I've had people say, I've seen people put up, she's my money coach. And I'm thinking, I log on my phone in Infusionsoft. I'm like, they ain't never got in the program. I'm not their coach.
So it's just following you on Facebook enough?
No, just following me on Facebook is not enough because you know, there's a difference. And I'm going to talk about that later on, but there's a difference between a coach and a mentor. A big difference. And so again, when I look at the story of Joshua, you know, essentially God told him that he needed a coach to fulfill the promise. And so this is why success needs coaching. Success needs coaching. God wants us to prosper. He wants us to succeed. I don't care what we do in this household, even when, you know, no matter what it is. I think about when Jonathan told us when he was in elementary school what he wanted to do with football. You know, we've always invested in outside coaching for him. Yes. You know, and so same thing with Adam. When Adam came and we, you know, he was like, this is what I want to do. We invested in that. When our kids wanted to start their own business, we sacrificed and invested, you know, in their dream and in their vision. And so it's important when Zoe comes up with something that she wants to do, we invest in that. We invest in the vision. So not investing in yourself is like not paying attention to the vision. Don't ever waste your time with doing a vision board when you're not going to invest in the strategies that's going to get you the things that you see on that vision board. It's just not going to happen. And so there are some things that you're good at and there are some things that you do less well. I heard Pastor Greg Poe say this years ago. There are some things that you're terrible at. And so for those things that you are unclear about or you're ignorant about the processes or cannot do, God has got someone on the sidelines to come in and help you do it. And so when we reject things that we know we need, how do we know that it's not God sending your answer?
Wow.
How do we know that?
Wow.
And this is why it's so dangerous to allow costs. And I'm not just saying this, guys, for you to join my program. I'm saying this across the board. Right. It is so dangerous for you to be fearful to invest in becoming a better you or self-development. It's dangerous because those could be the very answers that God is sending your way so that you can fulfill a dream in your heart. You're rejecting the dream when you don't invest in you.
Wow.
That's just how serious this is. And so again, for those things that you're unclear about or you're ignorant about the processes, there's someone that God could send in your path that would break those down and accelerate your path and just make it easier for you. And so pride can sometimes get in the way and make you feel reluctant to reach out. So pride is another thing that
you just
goes
like
along
me.
with bondage.
That person's just like me.
Yeah, and I've had people say, I've had a person tell me this before. We're the same. You put your underwear on the same way. I may step in one leg at a time, but don't listen. There are some huge differences called commas and zeros that separate us. And so it's just a dumb mentality to even think that. And so you got to succeed on purpose. Are you tired of being in the same place? Are you tired of failing? Are you tired of, experiencing shortcomings in your life? Are you tired of shooting for the stars and not even leaving the launching pad? Do you see exponential progress in your income? Yeah. Do you see it growing? Do you have a clear playbook that you're moving in synergy with that's something that's giving you results? And so financial success doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't. So you're not going to be successful by chance. Yep. If you're successful, it will be on purpose. It'll be on purpose because you purpose within yourself that you will succeed and position yourself to expand and accelerate in alignment with your desires and your dreams. Yeah. We invest in alignment with our desires and our dreams for not only just our family, we dream dreams for our grandkids and our great grandkids. Yeah. And so we have to make decisions today. We have to make investments today that's in alignment with that.
Down the road.
And so failure happens in a similar fashion. When we fail on purpose. Yeah. You make a conscious decision not to invest in yourself. And so you're the one who determines your own success. God gives you a choice of whether you want to succeed or not. I'm going to show you that in Joshua 8, I was reading. When I was reading this, I got the revelation. I was like, wow. In Joshua 1 and 8, the bottom half of the scripture says, for then thou, meaning you, shall make thy, meaning your, way prosperous, and then you will have good success. It's not your mama's fault. It's not your daddy's fault. It's not the church's fault. It's not the pastor's fault. It's not God's fault. It's not the devil's fault. It's not your teacher's fault. It is your fault if you do not prosper. And so, he said, make your own way prosperous and then you shall have good success. Yeah.
But it's easy to make the excuse, right?
It's easy to make the excuse. And so you're not going to be able to make your way prosperous if you don't know how. Wow. If you don't know how. And that's where having a coach comes in. And so when you are presented with the person that does know how, you have to engage, not retreat.
Yeah, so let's have this conversation, right? And I'll open it up just by saying this, and we've sort of touched on it. But I want to say it again. I think it's important to look at the gift that the person is operating in and not necessarily the person, right? Because if I hold up pictures of people who've been mentors to us, it will probably surprise some of you guys if you just looked at that person on the outward appearance. Yeah. Right? But what we saw was the gift that was on the inside of them, right? So whether it's black, white, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't
Cuban,
matter.
We got a Cuban coach.
It doesn't matter. It's important that you realize the gift that's on the inside of that person. Right. Don't be moved by the outward appearance of that person.
Right. Because we have some coaches that you would never know that they were, 8-figure and above earners.
And don't compare yourself age-wise. Don't look at them where they are. I'm not saying you want somebody whose life looks like hell. But what I'm saying is, don't walk in comparing yourself and saying, so this is the only example I can give, right? Just off the top of my head. And I was going to say this earlier. If we compared ourselves to Sean and Edwin, we would sit back and say, oh, well, they don't have anything to teach us on marriage.
Why? Because we've been married for 26 years?
Right. No, but to me, because I see the gift that God has placed on the inside of them, I don't look at them from the outward appearance. I look at the gift that God has placed on the inside of them and say, I need that.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
We learn from our clients. I'm going to get into that in a little bit too, but I just want people to stop being afraid of cost of something. Find a way or make a way.
Yeah.
You can always find a way. Pray and ask God, what do I have in my hand of value right now that I can do? I often tell the story of one of our clients that used to give blood just so she could actually make it to, the live event that we have once a year. And so greatness always has a price to it.
Yes.
It always has a price. And so again, riddle me this. How do you know that God is not sending you the wealth, a wealth coach or a business coach in your path to answer your prayers?
Yeah.
To answer your prayers of prospering and, your fear of engagement or your pride and, you allowing yourself to constantly be bound is the cost that's keeping you from your answered prayer.
So if your business is stuck, if you're looking at making the same amount this year that you made in your business last year and the previous year, then you are still operating on the same information, which is yielding you the same result.
Exactly. You're not going to get more because you haven't increased.
You haven't invested on a level to get more.
Right. And so, we have to begin to raise our expectations. Expect to become an uncommon achiever.
Yep.
That's important. I think, coaches see what you can't see. I remember years ago, I attended this event, and you may have heard the story because Marshawn at Daniels actually tells the story a lot, but I attended her event because I thought my son Jonathan met her first. And that's when they won Black Teenpreneur of the Year. And so she invited him to this event that she was having. It was her first inaugural event that she was having. And I was just like, you're not missing school to go to that event. So long story short, my sons didn't tell me, but they went online and registered me for the event. So I went thinking I was going to gain knowledge that can help them with their business at that time. And so I remember sitting on the front row, and literally it was like she began to teach on things that I didn't even know existed in my heart. Yep. And I just began to weep and cry. Like I had the ugly cry. I couldn't contain it. I was crying. Snot was rolling down my face. I was just weak. It was so bad that she had to stop and come off the stage and come over to me and rub me on my back and ask me if I was okay. Until this day, the vice president of Hewlett Packard, whenever he sees me, he makes fun of me because he was actually in the room. Yep. And that's how he remembered me, by me sobbing, But it was because I had awakened to my destiny.
Yep.
I knew I could. It didn't matter what, Sean or anybody else, even at that time, my husband kept telling me to do it. Our business partner, Wesley, kept telling me to do it. But until I awakened, a coach told me I awakened to my destiny. That's what a coach does. A coach literally will help you discover or uncover the gifts.
Reach down on the inside of you and yank out greatness.
Right. Yank out greatness. Yep. And so that's not who you were created to be. You weren't created to be an average achiever, a common achiever. And so God tends for you to rise far above the norm. And so, there's a difference. Coaches help pull out the gifts that are in the inside of you. They see what you can't see. Yep. And so literally every stage of our life, when we had exponential growth, I can tie it to a person. Yeah. I can tie me saying yes to the call. You know how the Bible says that Joshua received the call? Yeah. I received the call inside of Marshawn's program. And it was the first time I had ever joined a mastermind. And so I
invested at that level.
And invested at that level. Yep. Rob wasn't in the room. I called home and said, because remember, we had a wealth covenant. We wasn't going to spend a certain amount without talking to the other person. Yep. So I called home. I had never invested that amount of money before in a mastermind program. I had never even heard of mastermind programs before. I hadn't read, Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And so I called home and I was like, hey, I want to do this program. It's $10,000. How do you feel about it?
Yeah.
And he wasn't in the room. And I also know that my husband is not quick to make decisions like that. But I also didn't want to make the decision without him being in agreement, because in our household, we live by agreement. We think that, the Bible says, let the peace of God rule as an empire. And so we agreed that early on in the beginning of our marriage, that if we both didn't have peace about something, that we wouldn't move on it. So I wasn't going to get an attitude if he told me no. Well, I may have for a little bit.
Let me interject. I knew that we had prayed prior to that for that next coach, who was going to be that next person to lead us in that next step. And although I wasn't in the room, right, my confirmation, Facebook, just so you know, was from my conversation with LaShawn, because I had not met Marshawn yet. Yeah. But when we had the conversation, you said to me, hey, here's what I want to do. I feel like this is what we've been praying for. This is the next step that we need to take to move where we need to go. So I put my confidence in what you had said at that point, but it was what we needed to launch us off to that next step.
Right. I also know that a coach actually improves your performance.
Absolutely.
Like they accelerate your time, they accelerate your actions, they accelerate your environment.
Yes.
Right?
That happens through training, right?
That happens
Compare it to a natural coach when you start talking about sports. They take you through drills. They take you through certain regimens to prepare you for the game, for the real deal. So that's what coaches do. They prepare you for when the website goes live, when 100 people show up at your live event, when the lights come on. Coaches prepare their players for when the lights come on.
Right. I look at when I joined Lisa's program, she taught me how to do events, and so every shift, we can shift when we got in our business, where we felt like we were at a plateau. It was David who taught us how to have mental agility for your 8-figure level, and so how to bear the weight of wealth and making it on your shoulders. And so coaches push you beyond your comfort zone. Listen, your friends aren't going to push you and hold you accountable the way that a coach will. They just won't. They won't do it. And so they give you a playbook that actually wins games. That's what David did for us. And so every single jump I can tie back to a coach that we had at different seasons. So mentors will encourage you to be great, but they don't give you the tools for greatness.
The strategies.
They don't give you the strategies. Mentors can open doors for you, but they don't prepare you before you get to the door.
Right.
That's a difference. And there's a difference. And so not in the same way that a coach does. And so mentors are good of showing you what's possible, but a coach will give you and take your potential and literally turn it into profit. They'll take your potential and turn it into results for you. They'll take your potential and turn it into the outcomes that you desire. And so the difference between a coach normally is short term. A mentor is more of a long-term relationship. Right. And so a coach focuses on the development of specific skills of an individual, whereas a mentor focuses on the overall development or progress of the person. And so a coach decides on the agenda of what's being taught, what plays need to be executed, because they know what it's going to take to win the game in business, win the game in whatever area that you're looking to win in. But a mentee can choose the mentor, and then you go at your own place. They're not giving you the tools. And so with a coach, you get to co-create together. I co-create with my clients. They co-create the action steps with their clients. And so, a mentor will provide advice based on their own personal experiences, not necessarily what will cause you to accelerate where you are. And so that's the difference. A coach gives you strategies to handle various situations for a specific outcome, whereas a mentor will be like, here's what I did approach. It may not fit in every situation. And so
I think you touch on something, right? A lot of times a mentor falls into the same industry that the mentee works in. Right. And so they will tell them what they did specific to that industry. when you start talking about a coach, it's not industry specific.
It's not industry
right?
specific.
So now their scope of knowledge is broader than what that mentor's scope of knowledge is. Right. One other thing I'll say about a mentor too, and this is just my take on it, having seen those relationships in the past, mentor-mentee relationships can be great, but a lot of times mentor-mentee is a subordinate reporting to that next level up individual.
No, I don't know. When I think about a mentee, it's like a side by side, like we're co-peers, not necessarily because I think about the mentors that I have that are not my coaches, right? And we're peers, and so a coach can be formally engaged, meaning paid, not for free. Formally engaged, whereas a mentor helps you based on goodwill. It's because, out of the goodness of my heart, I actually like you, so I'm going to help you along. And so, a mentor is based off of goodwill, usually on an informal basis. Coaches, they're all about performance improvement. And
they want to see results.
Yep. And a mentee, it just may be on individual goals, not necessarily performance improvement.
And I would even say a mentor is not even tracking your performance.
Not at all. Right. And so that's a good point. Also, a coach has structured learning. Yes. Whereas a mentor is just non-structured learning. Right. A coach is results oriented, or they should be results oriented. If your coach isn't interested in your results, you got a bad coach.
You probably have a mentor.
I have people that have exited my programs and I'm still on them and talking to them. Like if I see something that they can improve on, I'm quick to send them a text and say, hey, pivot to do this or pivot to do that.
That's the coach in you.
That's the coach in me. And so they look for results. And then a coach has impartation of skill sets to accelerate growth. A coach pushes you. A mentor doesn't push you in the same way. A mentor supports you.
Right.
And so, they support you where you are. Whereas a coach say, hey, no, you can do better. You can be greater. You can actually win at this. They're pushing you beyond your comfort zone. Whereas a mentor just supports you. Yep. They will support you in your comfort zone. And so there's a difference between the two. A coach gives you instructions on execution steps, whereas a mentor gives you feedback.
Wow.
There's a difference between the two. A coach, they're task focused, or skill development, or they have a narrower perspective on, how you need to accomplish what you need to accomplish. Whereas a mentor is relationship focused. It's a broader perspective, and so, and then lastly, a coach imparts based on professional skills and training. Again, a mentor may do it based on experience alone. And so, there are reasons that are so important. In closing, I have 4 reasons why you should invest in self-development. It's so important, even for where we are today with COVID-19. We're not going to always be here. Like this too shall pass. Yes. Who are you going to be when we come out of this? When you're in the fire, who will you be when you come out of the fire? Yep. When Daniel and them was in the fire, the fiery furnace, and Jesus was with them, he became another person when they got out of the fire. His impact was increased. His influence had increased in the land. And his income increased because the king now wanted to give him some money. Yeah. And so, 4 reasons why you should invest in self-development. Number 1, I think it's important. Again, if you haven't heard us or you haven't picked up the clues, invest in a coach. It is important. Each time I have invested in a coach, it has had a direct impact on my bank account. It's had a direct impact on my businesses. Yep. A coach helps in creating and implementing a success plan. And so you can be the best you can be. Right? And so I've just completed one of our most recent coaching experiences, during which, I looked at my current business model and reimagined it with my coach, right? We reimagined it, and the result has been doubling in the results will double my income. And so that's important. And so sometimes a coach sees blind spots that you can't see. Yeah. They see blind spots to opportunities. It is nothing for me. I can actually start calling off names of people that I've coached and turn one income stream into 7 and 8 income streams. Yep. I do it all the time. That's the gift of a coach, though. I do it all the time. It's easy. Like, that's a blind spot. You know, you can take this and you can do X, Y, Z. You can go on and do so many things with it. And so, number 2 would be to never stop learning. Yeah. We need to hurry up, too. Okay. Never stop. I just have 4. Never stop learning. Investing in yourself is a great way to build your confidence, build your self-worth, build your knowledge base, and your net worth. Yep. You know, and so it increases your expertise and enhances your possibilities. Investing in programs, it increases your exposure to environments that are fruitful for multiplying. Listen, it gives you an invaluable opportunity to network with people who are like-minded. You know, education, specialized education is more than just an investment in your career. It's an investment in your growth. And, you know, your awareness, your identity. Constantly learning gives you the competitive edge. Yes, it does. It gives you the competitive edge. Just because
the time we live in, new information is available all the time, and things are changing rapidly. So.
All the time. Yep. And so it gives you inspiration to new ideas. And then I think it's important too, number 3, not only it's a part of self-development, but it's investing in your health. Right? We are learning how important that is. And so I'm seeing more clearer that your health is your wealth. Yeah. Right? And so guess what? You invest in that. I have a client, her name is Quay Holland, right? And she has a business called Cue Your Body. And she was actually in my Velocity program, and she has a wellness business is what she does. She's your wealth, WELLTH, your wealth coach. And so she has a journal that really changed my life. When I got her journal, and it's like a journal workbook. It's called Commit to Be Fit. And it just changed my life and how I view the importance of resting in my life. And she taught me the importance of having harmony. Remember in the program, because it's really what she does. That was her one word when we did our retreat. Yes. It was harmony. And so Q actually teaches you how to have harmony, life harmony. Right. And so it was important. I think, again, your health is your wealth. It's another form of investment. And so if you want to find out more, you can go Q's URL. Quay's QRL. URL is
Q and U's.
I know, right? QYourBodyLifestyle.com. And that's Q, the letter Q. Your is UR. QYourBodyLifestyle.com. We'll put it in the comments. But again, that's an investment on that level. Absolutely. People say they want to be healthy, but they don't want to invest in that level. And so I knew to be able to sustain our next level, I had to start investing in health coaches. Yep. You know, I had issues with sleeping. I invested in a doctor who specializes in sleep. Another thing, I was struggling for years with my voice and breathing. In one instance, Dr. Gail Jones, who is another holistic
We love Dr. Gail.
We love Dr. Gail, but she's another holistic coach. She turned me on to essential oils. And so now I can get on stage and I can talk for 2 hours and not go into a coughing fit.
I'm a fan of essential oils too now.
Right. He's short.
I was a skeptic at first, but I'm a fan.
Look, I have a box of essential oils now on my dresser, but it's due to Dr. Gail. Yep. And listening to her and investing, it has totally changed our lives. You know, how we use what we use, you know, essential oils, and then invest in your future, guys. That's number 4. And so make provisions for the rain. You got to make provisions for the rain. You live long enough in life, rain will come.
And I think, you know, if you could compare rain to COVID-19 and what the pandemic we're going through now, if nothing else, the takeaway from this is we need to prepare better. I was telling LaShawn earlier, I about every 2 or 3 days, I make a trip to the grocery store to grab things. And listen, y'all, I'm completely over the toilet paper not being there, the Clorox wipes not being there. I'm completely over all of that. The one thing I still have not gotten over is my Jif peanut butter.
Oh my God.
I cannot find my Jif peanut butter.
Oh my
so
Lord.
Coming out of COVID-19, as soon as Jif peanut butter is available, I'm stocking up. Yeah,
then you're going to have people tagging me
That's preparing
at
for the
stores
rain.
when they can find Jif peanut
That's
butter.
it. Tag me. Tag you, please, and then you can tell me because I want to know. But seriously, I think number 4 is the point that is really timely right now. You know, we look at mortgage payments and people having extra cash, 30 million people losing their jobs. That we have to learn how to prepare for the rain.
We do. Prepare for the rain because it'll come. Remember, I say this all the time. Noah prepared for the ark before the rain. Joseph built storehouses before the famine. Put some money into a savings. Your future self will thank you. And so I know this took a little long today, longer than usual.
She did a whole lot of talking.
It was an hour, but it was necessary.
It
was needful because we have to change our mindset about invested in who we are because we're more than worth the investment. You know, to be able to walk out the call, remember you have to receive the call, but after you receive the call, there is a preparation time, and then God will assign you to a person that can help you in your preparation, that can coach you through it. And so I think it's important for us to not just, you know, shy away from or get scared, because I know people that have said, you know, I can't afford to do this right now. When will you be able to afford to? Because life still happens.
That's right.
And if you don't make a decision to create the space to do something different, like we had to create the space. I remember the first $30,000 program that we did. And, you know, I'm not going to go up any higher because some people will fall out, you know, if they knew, but we've invested well over 6 figures several times over in our personal development, in our business development, and we continue to do it because it's important. So, you know, you only know what you only know. You're not born with a download of every successful blueprint for everything in life.
Right.
Like, you have to go after it. You have to pursue it. Joshua actually had to do what Moses told him to do. He had to do what he saw Moses do. That's the instructions that God gave him. You know, observe to do. And so victory just didn't fall in Joshua's lap.
So in closing, because we've been at it for an hour and 2 minutes. Thank you guys so much for hanging in with us. We really enjoyed this, and I want to challenge everybody who's on who sees this. If you listen to this message, I want you to take 2 minutes out of your time, whether you pray daily or you haven't prayed in many days. Pray and ask God to show you those people that are waiting for you to step into position.
Most definitely.
Because I think if you see that, it would shift your perspective and probably drive you to work harder to get to where you need to be. And to work smarter, right? Not necessarily work harder, but work smarter and get over not investing in coaches and those things that you need to take that next step.
Most definitely. So we look forward to speaking with you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We love you guys. Be blessed this week. Just change your perspective. It is all good. God is still on the throne. There you go. Make sure you wear your mask. Make sure you practice social distancing. We love you guys. We love you guys. Bye-bye.